And we are very pleased to welcome today JP Spears. You can follow him. He's, of course, an author, YouTuber, comedian. He makes fun of politics, fitness, faith. He hosts Awaken with JP on Rumble and YouTube. Follow on X. Is at Awaken with JP. And then our friend Dr. Jessica Rose, if you were watching that intro tape, she obviously was in that tape with us, coming to give us an update on a variety of things. Of course, Jessica's a molecular biologist, biochemist. You can follow her, jessicasuniverse.com, also X, Jessica Loves MJK. Let's see, anything else? Awakenwhip.com is another one for JP. And we're going to get into DNA contamination. We're going to get into memes. We're going to get into pride and digital IDs after this.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue. And we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. And I always say to you, there are longevity things you can be doing now. Fatty 15 is one of them, that pentadecanoic acid, clearly the longevity nutrient as well. Nicotinamide riboside. I've talked about True Nitrogen in the past. Now I developed my own program with the V-Shred MD folks. So we have the NR Boost. So these are things, I was so happy today when a patient of mine followed my advice and had been taking both those medicines. And he said, something is making me feel better. So I take it not to feel better. I take it to age slower. That's what I'm looking for. All right. JP is up here. JP, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
So let's talk a little bit about your history. I was telling you before the mics heated up that well, first of all, where can they see the show? I don't want to leave that out. Where do you want people to go to find you, and what are they going to find there?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube and Rumble. My username is Awaken with JP, and I post multiple comedy videos every week. I also have a Tuesday weekly live stream show on Rumble, Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m. So Rumble and YouTube, the best places to find me. And if I offend you, those are the best places to avoid.
Well, and we were talking before the mics heated up about how you got going during COVID, which is, you said that COVID has been good for business. For me, it changed business. I had to do something else, thus this. But I found you, and I remember sort of thinking, hey, that's really funny. Is he serious? Is this for real? That sort of, you used to do a little more sort of on the DL comedy, it seemed like in the beginning.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And as you mentioned, Dr. Drew, I hate to sound like Bill Gates, but COVID was really good for business. And much like you, it really changed my business, still under the umbrella of comedy, but the mission just changed. And I didn't know it was gonna, because I thought I'm still doing what I normally do. I'm calling out, through the lens of comedy, using satire to call out egotistical nature, lies, hypocrisy, corruption, double standards, gaslighting. You can call
Where
that
are you
out.
finding that? I don't understand. I'm so confused. How do you find it? Where's the opportunity for comedy in this world we live in?
You just put your tinfoil hat on and you see it everywhere. So, yeah, during COVID, I'm just like, oh, these people are self-contradictory, moving the goalposts. And then I realized, okay, this is a very divisive issue. You find that out pretty quick in like April of 2020. But, to me, the mission is more important than comedy, the mission of truth. So even though I thought, all right, I might lose my audience, not many people standing up with this message, let alone in comedy, I just knew like I have to be true to myself. I can't betray myself and not say this or say the opposite thing. So I just really started standing for my most important value, which is freedom. And it's really, I'll tell you,
it's really
very
interesting.
Fulfilling.
It's what? Go ahead. Yeah.
It's very fulfilling.
It's so interesting to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr.
It's
Drew.
so interesting to me that, sorry, we have a little delay here. I apologize. But it's so interesting to me. Truth and freedom, it just come up all the time thematically for me. And if you'd asked me 8 years ago what kinds of themes are going to be in my thinking every day, I would have talked about some biochemical stuff. I would have not thought I had to worry about my individual liberties. But here we are. And freedom of speech, I keep saying on this show that that's the easiest one to sort of stand up for, and the one that is sort of so clearly has to be maintained or you lose all the rest. But I'm interested in your evolution and then what you think has happened to the truth.
Yeah, my evolution, it's, really quick. It's basically realizing the truth matters and it's under assault. And
how did you come up with that? What happened? What were you doing?
Yeah, I'm not very good at being gaslit. I can read 1984 and realize this is a good fictional story. It makes a really bad non-fictional reality. So you just start seeing the 1984 playbook going out there and you realize we're living in a time where some forces see truth as the enemy. So they've been trying to assassinate truth for a long time, really on my radar since 2020 in a huge way. So I think that's what's happened to truth. It threatens many different agendas. It's become enemy number one of what I would just simply call evil. And it takes good people to stand up for truth. We all have a small role to play. We're all cells in the body of humanity. And for the benefit of the body of humanity, all the cells need to do their job and stand up for truth in their own way, whether it's, hey, you're having a conversation with a neighbor and you're going to stand for truth in a respectful way, or you're a doctor, or you're a comedian. And boy, I just can't imagine how bad it would feel going to bed at night knowing, hey, I'm a coward. I sold out. I took the easy way out. I knew what I need to say, but I just don't say it. So standing up for truth is incredibly fulfilling. That's selfishly what we get out of it. And we also realize our children and our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the world that they're going to live in, it's largely being determined by what we do and don't do today. So it matters more than just what's in it for us.
Yeah, I was speaking to a European yesterday on the show, and he said something interesting. He said, well, Europeans, we both envy you and we're disgusted by you. And I thought, well, now what is that? What is it and I thought, it's freedom. It's the level of freedom that our founding fathers went to maintain. The amount of freedom, the protections against government, and they have no such protections. And yeah, I guess there are limits to freedom, but our job is to always test them, and to test them primarily with speech. and to protect them. And we live in this just extraordinary time when this is like become an important thing. And you mentioned that you would feel bad if you didn't stand up for it. I get that. You almost have to, right? I remember about a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, people going, "You're crazy." RFK Jr. said that to me. He said, "You're courageous for talking to me." And I thought, courageous for a doctor to talk to a lawyer? That this doesn't feel like courage. This feels like something you just have to do. This feels like it's a must, and can't be otherwise. But there are people out there, this is to follow on to what you just said about, feeling bad if you didn't stand up for things. We're brainwashed. I think they think they're standing up to things too, but they're going the other way. So how do we, and that's sort of the problem right now. So how do we reconcile these things and make sure we're not the ones being brainwashed?
Well, freedom of speech starts with freedom of thinking. So I think at a core level, easier said than done. We've got to exercise our free thinking apparatus. And if you're not a free thinker, most people are brainwashed more than they even know. I know I was. When I started waking up to the COVID tyranny, I'm looking at what the Bill Gateses, the Anthony Fauci's are saying, the authorities, realizing, okay, there's some real holes here. But what else are these same people saying? And I look at their rhetoric about climate change, this and that, and all the other things. And I realize, well, I've kind of been believing in that stuff. Then I start questioning myself, well, why do I believe it? And I realize those beliefs were not my own. It's like someone else's software was running on the hardware of my mind. And I thought I was a free thinker, but we have to really exercise our thinking faculties. A brain is a terrible thing to waste. I think God gives it to us for a reason, and that reason is to use it. It's our own brilliant mind. So coming to our own conclusions by understanding what we think, why we think it, really heavy on why do I think this? And also, I think the relationship we have with our beliefs, if we can have beliefs but not believe our beliefs, we're in a good free thinking posture. But if we have our beliefs and we automatically believe them, we never question them, we don't ask, why do I believe this? Where does this come from? We're not a free thinker. And it takes energy to think. And I think one of the worst addictions of our time is the addiction to comfort. It is really comfortable to not spend energy thinking.
So speaking of thinking, RFK Jr. Posted an X post that Caleb keeps throwing up there while you were talking. You were on there. It is this sort of, what do we call that? A bubblegram, and you are in there, I believe. And it's interesting. You could probably just overlay comedy over it, and you'd get the similar kind of a bubblegram. Yeah. But that must have been extraordinary to see that show up.
Yeah, I tried to send RFK an extra $500 to give me a bigger red bubble with narcissism. But honestly, and there was a version of that came out last year, that what you see on the screen is the most updated version. It is such an honor to be someone on there who's on there just for saying words that I think, and to see like, wow, an audience of 8 million people, that's a significant thing when you look at American podcasters, video creators. And then, of course, it being a sea of red, it really is distinct when you look at the mainstream media, which is just a deep blue sea. So I think what we see there, that's the evidence of how people are voting with their attention. And of course, it's just really.
It reminds me of 18th century America, where you guys are like the militia. You're like the New Englanders going, wait a minute, and the royalists are the guys in control of the media and the newspapers and everything. And I could see why when I look at this bubblegram. What are they called? Bubblegrams? What are these things called?
Yeah, there's a good bubblegram. Seems too simple, but I would imagine that's what it's called.
Something like that. Caleb, you can look that up for me. And But I feel like if I, did something similar in the 80s, you would see something like this, and the patriots and the revolutionaries would be marginalized and dismissed as country people and uneducated and don't know what they're talking about. They're not listening to authority. I mean, it really is the same issue all over again.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. What you're saying, history repeats itself. If you learn to look at patterns, recognize the patterns, we're not in anything new. There's new colors and textures on it. Like, yeah, podcasts are new, video is new, but the human condition that it's expressing, they're the same old patterns. And I don't know if there's a more original story of humanity of good versus evil. And at the end of the day, I think that's what all this is about. It's evil forces are trying to obliterate truth because evil can only live in the shadows. It can't survive under the light of truth. So it's that diagram. It's just showing you a quick snapshot of what's going on in the eternal battle of good versus evil. And it's being on what we call the good guy team. It's a good place to be right now, I think.
I'd like to know also, Caleb, if we can figure out who the little bubbles are that don't have names on them. That was my first reaction. It's like the big bubbles, I thought, okay, yeah, of course. And then I thought, well, who are all these other ones that make the grade, but we don't put their name on there? Who is that? I'm curious who they are or how we can figure that out. I'm going to say one thing about good versus evil. I worry. You're, so of course, entitled to construct things that way, to frame it that way. I just worry, a lot of people are doing so. You're not alone, obviously. But as soon as you start evoking evil, people can get weird on you. They start imagining religious overtones to what you're saying, or they start imagining that it's not a far cry from Stalin's structure of, if you're not with me, you're a fascist, right? If you're not with me, you're evil. So I think you can skip some of that by using the word sinister. There's clear, and I am so clear there are sinister forces at work here. Some of them may be evil, some of them may not, but there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that there are, even if it's well-meaning people, the forces that they're bringing to bear are clearly sinister. And the same thing can be said of every time that there has been an episode of social engineering in the name of good. It has had sinister effects on the human condition and usually kills millions.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. The terminology of good versus evil is about the least nuanced way to phrase it. And also, talking to the other side, someone who seems to be under the influence of sinister intentions. Of course, it's not productive to say, well, you're doing the bidding of evil and I'm not. Cool. That's very divisive. Right. So I very much agree with you. And I think especially talking to the other side, nuanced language and, of course, a tone of respect is so important. Otherwise, we are creating more divide in our attempt to unify under one umbrella, in my opinion. And also one other thing,
please.
One other nuance that I feel is especially important that I see a lot of, I think, our mistakes since Charlie Kirk's assassination. Folks on the right, just looking at, people with a lot of leftist and ideology, indoctrination, saying there's no way we can get along with those people. We're too different. I think there needs to be nuance. I think it's look at those ideas. Okay, those ideas are not compatible with our vision of life. It's people that hold the ideas. All people are savable. We can change our minds. We can be influenced and have more light, and we start doing more of our thinking. So I think there is a danger, especially, people are angry about the Charlie Kirk assassination. So am I. But we need to be careful and not vilify people, or else we are being tricked into creating more divide. look at the ideology and the ideas, the sinister ones, and know, forgive my non-nuanced language, that's the enemy. The people are the ones.
I would say one thing. I agree with you philosophically. However, from an operational standpoint, the reason that people are attracted to you is that when you are dealing with people that are brainwashed and then triggered to cognitive dissonance, they're extremely unpleasant to deal with, which lends an opportunity for mockery, because mockery kind of stops people in their path. I mean, I was looking at the videos of you taking down all the pills, like the women taking the Tylenol when they're pregnant. I mean, that was mockery, and it makes it has to make everybody stop in their tracks, go, oh my God, what are they doing? Look, well, when you really take it to its logical, sort of extreme, JP is pointing this out to us. It's like, oh my God, how could they possibly? You don't have to even get into an argument. It's like the mockery breaks through, and I think if people are going to be that rigid in their thinking, mockery is a perfectly acceptable way to break through some of that stuff. Speaking of getting back to evil, what do you think of the digital ID cards?
Oh, such a fan. We all need to be, let's just be owned by a government completely. Why waste any time? Yes, give us a digital ID card, inject it into us, just have our bodies. But so scary. And I pray for the people of UK. If they accept this, no government has ever said, we went too far, let's undo that. So, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, but holy Lord, I was just reading, I think it was in the country of Vietnam, they shut down 86,000 bank accounts because people were refusing digital IDs, and now they can't eat food, so many of them are just forced into compliance. So, boy, the sovereignty, it really matters. And what government doesn't want to do this? Luckily, I think our current administration, hopefully we're good, but the next they just want to do this. And it also got me thinking, were our great grandfathers, when the government wanted to issue the paper ID, did they have this backlash? Did they see, wow, this is just a first step into something worse?
Interesting.
I'm not sure.
Interesting. I was around long ago enough that I spoke to a bunch of physician peers who were asked to accept Medicare when it came in, and they had community meetings amongst physicians, and their prediction was, this is the first step in a slippery slope, and we're going to lose control of medicine. And now here we are. I've heard the same thing about income tax, which was supposed to be a temporary solution. Income tax, they'll never go back. And always, what I love about these historical moments, they never imagined they would go to this place. They never imagined it would get this bad. It defies imagination, and yet we managed to do that.
Yeah, this 108-year-long temporary income tax, it's been going on for a little while. It's starting to feel permanent.
You imagine that. Starting to feel like they don't want to take it back. Well, JP, I appreciate your work. I appreciate you, again, using, I think mockery is too harsh a word. Comedy, let's use it what it is. But I think if somebody's not a comedian and doesn't know how to do comedy, mockery will suffice. So please, everybody, It's all right. You can mock people for being unreasonable.
And the court jester's role is to mock the ego of the king from an archetypal perspective. So honestly, mockery, it's not the most delicate way to say it, but it's a very accurate way of saying it. And specifically, what is ideally mocked is really bad ideas, different than mocking people. Now, of course, if someone's self-identified with that idea, then they'll think it's about them. They'll get offended. So be it. You can't control how it's taken, but it's really all about mocking bad ideas. The problem with mocking really good ideas is it's not that funny. You can do it, but unfortunately, you get a lot more laughs when you're mocking really bad ideas.
Yeah, the core of comedy is truth, right? You're back to what we were saying about truth, the opening of our conversation. And if it exposes something of a truth and a silliness or a stupidness in juxtaposition with a truth, there we go. That's comedy. It's funny.
Yeah. It's like
I appreciate you being here. Finish. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, a really good idea, feeding a hungry child. You're not going to derive that much funny comedy out of that, but mocking digital IDs, we can get some good comedy out of that, which kind of is a first clue that it's a really bad idea.
And so tell us again, what's coming up on your live show?
What's coming up on my live show? That's a good question. The world changes so much week to week. So by next Tuesday, I'm not sure what we're going to be having on our plate, but I'll look forward to having extremely uneducated yet strong opinions on whatever is going on in the start of next week.
Our favorite. It's our favorite. They're your tour days we put up there. Alexandria, I guess that's Virginia, Calgary in May, Canada. Is that Calgary, Alberta?
Yes.
And Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. Yep. So coming up,
good to have
there
you
on my website, awakenwithjp.com. And Dr. Drew, thank you for having me. Thank you for all the amazing work you've been doing.
Thank you, buddy. Hope to see you again soon. JP Sears, everybody. And coming up next is Jessica Rose. We're going to talk about colon cancer going up. We're talking about DNA contamination, something she's been warning about for quite some time. A reminder, so I don't have to repeat all that when Jessica comes in, she is on her Substack, jessicar.substack, jessicasuniverse.com, and X is Jessica Loves MJK. Be back with Jessica Rose right after this. I've spent most of my career dealing with illnesses that shorten life, and now we have ways to extend it and extend wellness. I've been working with the team over at V-Shred to develop a product that has everything I want in a longevity supplement. NR Boost has nicotinamide riboside. You know how metal can rust? Well, your body behaves in a similar way. It's mediated through something called NAD. NAD falls as we age, so we're less able to fight off that oxidative process. We oxidize much like that metal. And NAD fights it, but nicotinamide riboside elevates NAD so we can push back on those oxidative stressors, improving health, improving longevity. The other product is Senosync, has fisetin, one of the key molecules to fight off zombie cells, and we've added resveratrol to that, which is a well-known anti-aging antioxidant again. I don't like supplements that have a ton of ingredients. To me, it suggests that none of it's working. When I prescribe a medication, I prescribe that medicine because I expect that to work. That is exactly what I've done with these products. And I want you to go to drdrew.com/vshredmd for 10% off. Again, that is drdrew.com/vshredmd. The wellness company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and being rationally ready, and who knows what the future will hold for us. Now, TWC has a service to cover your family's medical needs, including and especially prevention. For just $100 a month, the One Wellness Elite membership includes 2 free medical-grade nutraceuticals per month, free prescriptions for over 800 of the most common medications, access to concierge telemedicine available at a moment's notice, and a 15% discount on all supplements and the emergency kits. 15% off the emergency kits. That's quite a saving. So if you're spending $100 or more on supplements and meds every month, this plan will already save you money. If you sign up for a year, you'll save $200. And when you use the link, drdrew.com/TWC, you'll get 10% off the first payment to the One Wellness Elite membership. Check out One Wellness at drdrew.com/TWC and get 10% off your first payment. drdrew.com/TWC. It's all there.
Now, if you want to see stars, you have to watch them dance, dive, or go to rehab with Dr. Drew.
Dr. Pinsky told me that you are having some issues.
He says I'm depressed.
Are you?
Dr. Drew.
Welcome back. The one and only Jessica Rose joins us again. Jessica, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Tough act to follow with JP there.
I know, JP is fine. But I want to start with sort of like an update from you, because I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while, and it's interesting watching the four of us or the three of us with Joseph Fryman in the opening footage. I don't know if you saw that. Did you happen to see that as we were rolling into the show? Yeah. And that was a really important day for me. I mean, what he was presenting to us was, I mean, that was where the scales really fell from my eyes in terms of what was going on at the FDA. And then you've continued fighting the good fight. So what is the update since then?
Well, it's more of the same and a little bit different. By we, I mean me and two co-authors, Kevin McKernan and David Speaker, have since published a very important paper on the subject matter of DNA impurities in the COVID shots, Moderna and Pfizer, to be specific. And it's making a lot of waves. We haven't really had it published for too long. I think it's been like 2 weeks now, and there are already some signs that some people, some lurky Larrys might try and get our paper retracted. So that basically means that we're over some important target in my eyes. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot, like JP said, who knows what's going to be going on next week in the world, but in the world of the research of these shots, I mean, it's not just our paper revealing that every single study associated with these things is basically backing up what most of us have been saying for years now. Like there's really nothing safe and or effective about these products, and they need to be recalled. The platform itself needs to be recalled. If you want me to go into a little bit of detail as to what we found in the paper, I can explain a little bit why I believe that.
I'm looking at the paper. It's in front of me. Give me a couple of, I need some sort of details on what's happening here. The journal was it autoimmunity? Was that the journal?
Yes. And by the way, this was the sixth journal that we had to go through eventual peer review process with. We submitted to many more before this, and it was, my point is, it was very hard to get to publication because there's a lot of pushback, and a lot of journals don't want to be affiliated with this kind of data.
And would they say that out loud, or would they start to push on the content of the paper?
No, it's never said out loud. It's just, I don't know. Who knows what another person's reasons for doing something is, but anything that's going to go against a quote unquote narrative that's been dictated for years that might put a pharmaceutical company in question mark land is, it's going to be harder to publish that paper.
And this is what everybody's finding, it seems like, but they are starting to leak into the published world. I don't know if you're aware, I was reading Sasha Latipova's Substack or something, or some email blast or something this morning, and they're about to publish a hit piece on her. And it's interesting, she published the letter that she sent out in response to their initial inquiry when they were doing their investigative process, let's say, for this article. And she points out like place after, point after point where they're not just substandard journalism, but actually breaking the law and the intent of the law. And I just thought to myself, when I first read this, I thought, you're going to take on a brilliant woman like this who just happens to have a different opinion than you. So you have to go after her for some reason. And I'm hoping that she's laid out certainly a case for legal action. I hope she takes it if it's in any way harmful to her, because these people, that's the only choice we have. These people are clearly intending to harm, and they're not interested in what is normative scientific discourse.
Yeah, well, in the case of our paper, one of the things that I think is prompting a lot of people to troll us and to threaten us and to make sure that the least number of people, especially the policymakers, as possible, actually read this paper is because it actually demonstrates fraud. So we actually found that when we tested 32 vials, 16 lots of Moderna and Pfizer COVID shots, that every single one had DNA in it. And I don't know if you remember, well, of course you remember, because, and actually it's still written on the CDC website that in bold writing, you can go look this up now, that DNA is not an issue, integration is not an issue with the nucleoside modified shots because, it's mRNA and it's not going to be a problem. But that's not true in the first place because there's a published paper that demonstrates that this nucleoside modified mRNA can reverse transcribe via line 1, and then integration could be an issue. However, what our paper shows is that there's DNA there in the first place, and this comes from the production methods, and the fact that the final product of the production method, which was an upscaling technology where they used plasmids and E. coli bacteria, which I can explain, wasn't thoroughly cleaned at the end. They probably didn't have the right DNases, these enzymes that break up the DNA at the end of the production process. Thus, the final product, which was the nucleoside modified mRNA, which was meant to be packaged cleanly in these lipid nanoparticles, was also full of DNA. This is a big problem. And it's not.
Yeah, I get that. And I remember 9 months ago, I don't know if it was you that alerted me, but somebody alerted me that this was a probability. And I remember somebody saying that, maybe it was Sasha again, I think that's why I brought her name up, that some amount of DNA residua, plasmid residua, was actually allowed in the manufacturing process. And am I getting that correct? And B, how do they determine what a safe amount is?
So there is an EMA threshold. There are thresholds as to the limit of a so-called safe amount of DNA as per, say, biologic production, like vaccine production. But that's based on naked DNA. It's not based on this new technology, this lipid nanoparticle encapsulation technology. So if you ask me, because these lipid nanoparticles are so efficient, they traffic everywhere in the body, they bioaccumulate. We already know this from pharmacokinetic studies. They're very efficient at getting whatever they're carrying into cells. This is its modus operandi. So no amount of DNA that's foreign, especially the type that we found, aka SV40, is safe. So these thresholds are already too high. And just so that everybody knows, if you don't read the paper, I'll just tell you now that the levels of DNA that we detected, for the most part, were all above this threshold that's already too high.
Right.
So it begs the question, what's happening when you have these lipid nanoparticle encapsulated foreign DNA fragments delivered in the billions to the inside of a cell? Because we know also from published literature that this can induce this C-gas sting pathway, which is a cancer pathway. So, we don't even need integration. We don't need to speak on integration, according to the CDC's website. That's the only problem. We can just talk about cytosolic introduction of foreign DNA fragments. And this SV40 thing is problematic. It's not the simian virus 40 itself, by the way. It's the promoter enhancer. We don't know why it's there. It wasn't declared as part of the plasmid that was disclosed in an EMA document. So it was effectively hidden by the manufacturer, which is Pfizer. And it has all sorts of functional roles. It's used in gene therapy to traffic things to the nucleus, the nuclei of cells. It's a nuclear localization sequence. It binds p53, the guardian of the genome. This is a tumor suppressor gene. And with it being, think of it this way. If you have any kind of molecule that's essential to suppressing the formation of tumors in the human body, and then you bombard it with a bunch of stuff, another molecule that binds it, naturally, I mean, the best scenario is that nothing's going to happen, but that's highly unlikely. What's probably going to happen is you're going to mess up the role of that essential gene and its function. And if you heard what I just said, its function is a tumor suppressor. So it begs the question, is this why we're seeing so many increases in cancers and aggressive cancers and fast-forming cancers and cancers in young people? I mean, I'm not saying it's the only reason we're seeing it, but is it making the problem worse? And if you ask me, it's 100% yes that it's making the problem worse, because I don't see how it wouldn't.
Back to the C gas activation, I remember Christy Grace was ringing the bell on that maybe a year ago. So it's something I've had my ear to the ground about for quite some time. And then you must be aware that there was recently, I see Dr. Soon Xiong here. He is concerned about this same thing for different reasons. He's worried about suppression of natural killer function, which we can talk about in a section. But I'm sure you're aware that there was I believe it was a colon cancer that was, the DNA was sequenced and there was the plasmid within the DNA of that colon cancer.
Yep, that was Kevin. And it's very concerning, and it prompts, in my opinion, I mean, if I was head of some kind of public policy agency, I would immediately start sequencing tumors in people who'd had multiple shots. I mean, it seems like a natural thing to do for our species, because this is a species level problem because of the number of people that were injected. So it's wild. And on the subject matter of Dr. Xiong, I did write a little piece on this. I just decided once I saw him make this X post about the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds with colon cancer, and saying that was the first time in his career he had a 13-year-old in his clinic die of metastatic pancreatic cancer. I looked at VAERS, and naturally, I wanted to do a comparison between pre-COVID and post-COVID scenarios. So I counted all the colon cancer reports in VAERS from 2018 to 2020 for all vaccines combined. And I counted the number of colon cancer reports in VAERS from 2021 to 2023. This is just a reflection, by the way. VAERS is like leaves rustling in the wind, but it's a signal. It's a pharmacovigilance tool designed to do this. And I found that there was an 8,300, if that's even a thing, % increase in colon cancer reports between these two timeframes. And the proportional reporting ratio, which is one of the ways that you use VAERS to detect an association so that you can do a subsequent causality assessment, of which if it's over 1 or 2, depending on your limit, you have a definitive association and possibly a causal effect. So the PRR in this case is 11.5. So it's way, 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 way higher than it would need to be in order to prompt an immediate investigation into what this signal is telling us. I mean, that's, like I said, that's what VAERS is for. So, hello.
Hello there. So what do you, I have a couple other sort of things that have been on my mind I want to get your opinion about, but I do first want to drill into whether or not you think there's anything in Dr. Soon Xiong's theory about natural killer suppression. He's mostly focused on COVID. His sort of notion is that COVID itself was sort of an AIDS-like virus killing a particular T-cell line. I would argue that the pathogenic component of all COVID reactions are the spike protein. Therefore, you'd have to guess perhaps the vaccine does the same thing. But what are your feelings about the natural killer theory?
Yeah, it's a really interesting hypothesis. I mean, for people who don't know, natural killer cells are really important. Everybody talks about T cells and B cells. So natural killer cells are like, I think of them kind of like the T cells of the innate immune system. So they're very, very potent, and they rush to the rescue or to a fight when your body's introduced to a foreign antigen or pathogen immediately. So they're really, really, really important. And people who have NK cell deficiencies can be, they can have a plethora of different kinds of diseases and conditions. So it's an interesting hypothesis. I would have to look deeper into it. But I cannot say that it doesn't make sense, because on the VAIDS, like, the vaccine acquired induced, deficiency syndrome idea, this makes a lot of sense when you look at the pharmacovigilance data, when you look at mortality rates going up across the board, when you look at the immunological deficiencies and the way that if you have, say, a latent viral infection, like a herpes infection that was suppressed, these shots, especially if you take 2 or 3 of them, seem to push those latent viruses into action. So there's either what I think is that the effectors that were keeping these latent viruses at bay or suppressed, the immunological suppression itself, the regulation, it gets dysregulated. So this is all coming from an immunological basis. So to theorize that NK cells are involved is a good idea. It needs to be further explored, like all of these subject matters, if you ask me.
Well, of course, right. That's it. Like science as we did it in 2019 and for the 300 years prior, you would have looked into all this. You would have asked questions, and you would have challenged one another to ask those questions and debated each other's findings. Now it's just I never, ever would have imagined this, where you just are locked out of discourse and you have to name people, give people, vilify people for having an opinion different than your own. It's just the weirdest thing. And science can't be done with it. Science has to be done in good faith discussions. You mentioned making sense several times there in your description of the NK hypothesis. Here's what would make sense to me as it pertains to the vaccine generally, that we come up with a vaccine that does not produce specifically the pathogenic limb of the protein. What the hell? The pathogenic ligand is the spike protein. It's what damages at least the endothelium, if not the natural killer cells, and it is the pathogenic part. Oh, I understand. I keep saying this. Okay, in an emergency, that was your target. I get it. Alpha and Delta was a different illness than Omicron. Okay, I understand. You can disagree with that. Okay, but I'm willing to concede that and just go. Okay, that was Alpha and Delta. That was an emergency. You had a target there. You went for it. I get it. Now, what the hell are you doing? Now let's get the nucleocapsid or the whole virus or something. Why in the world would you continue to produce or insist that people take a vaccine that produces the pathogenic component?
It makes no sense. And I mean, it begs a lot of questions as to, I was just talking about this the other day, like, you remember when there was, in a small community of people at least, there was a big hoopla about why they chose the spike protein and not the nucleocapsid. It was an excellent question because, I mean, this thing is really, really toxic. It really messes up everything. Yeah, in the human body. I mean, it's, besides being a foreign protein that's manufactured by your own cells ad infinitum, apparently, it's really toxic. It messes up the zeta potential between red blood cells. This is published, by the way. which means that your red blood cells get sticky, which is probably one of the big reasons why we're seeing a lot of clotting issues and microclotting issues. So yeah, it's a huge question mark, hey? And it does kind of make you wonder, considering the fact that it was manufactured and we have the fingerprints associated with that in terms of how it was put together and how it was made. Why? Like, what were you guys trying to do? I really would love to be a fly on the wall of those meetings. I would like to know, because you know better than anyone, there's a huge community of people in the world who think that they, quote unquote, are trying to kill everyone. And I'm more on the side of things evolving from ignorance and stupidity, because there's a lot of that going around as well. Hubris as well. I mean, the fact that some people think and profit from and promote gain-of-function research with virulent viruses, this is insanity. The fact that we're tinkering with genes itself is something that we really need to be careful about doing. I mean, gene therapy is it's here. It's not on the horizon. It's here. We have all the tools to do this, exquisitely borrowed from nature, by the way, of course. Nature has all the best ideas, which is why we shouldn't mess with her. But the problem, it's not even the biotech tools. It's not the development of technology. It's the abuse of these things that's the problem. And the obscuration of the truth, the data, not showing the public, because obviously we're too dumb to understand, what is actually going on behind the scenes that inevitably is going to affect us all. It's criminal. Yes. I mean, it would have been considered outright criminal, I don't know how many years ago, but it seems like things might have changed.
It's sort of overwhelmed the system in some crazy way. So let me ask you this: when you look back, we haven't really done this, sort of look back at things, and I wonder, how things look to you in 2019, and what you imagine 2025 would be like. How has that changed? What was your life like and your view of science like then? And how has that changed now?
Oh, it's hardly comparable. I mean, I was at the end of my second postdoc. I was about to embark on a surfing journey of a lifetime, which I didn't get to go on because they declared a pandemic. I had no problem with vaccines. I never saw the vaccine industry as the looming monster that I do now, because I didn't know. Because I didn't study up on that. I had never experienced so much of the things that I've experienced in the last 5 years prior to that. And that is online attacks, having my work withdrawn, retracted. I mean, I don't think people understand how horrible that is for an academic. Like, to have a retraction on your record is very, very, very serious, because a retraction is supposed to be about getting something out of the academic eye market so that people can't read your work because you did something really bad, like plagiarize or make up data or do something, criminal in the eyes of publishing and academics. So this is a serious thing, and it's not, but it's really not just me. It's a lot of people, very serious people, who've had this happen to them, or having it happen to them right now. The threat of withdrawal or retraction of scientific works retroactively. I mean, Didier Raoult in France, he's such a prominent figure in his field. He's famous. He's infamous as a genius researcher. And he's suffered from this as well. They're going after things he published like 20 years ago, I believe. It's insane. So my take on everything is I'm exactly who I was effectively, but I just like to go back to what you and JP were saying about, it was what JP was saying about peeling the onion of yourself and kind of, curing your own brainwashing condition. Because I think he's right. I think we're all kind of brainwashed and indoctrinated in a way. Yes. And it's all, it's up to only us to face that. And you have to face it if you're going to live an honest life. It's really uncomfortable, but it's not uncomfortable for very long. You just have to sit with the discomfort for a while until you kind of evolve yourself to a new place. So that's, it's a mixed blessing. I mean, it's brought me to who I am today, which I think is a better version of myself, Jessica 10.0 or whatever it is. I mean, just going back to JP again, man, I'm a huge fan. Humor is the height of intelligence. And I'm very grateful for people like him, and him in particular, because what a lot of people actually tell me, even though I'm a biologist, is that they like my humor, and I lighten their day sometimes. And that means a lot to me. And laughter and levity is definitely going to be necessary in the coming years. Yes. Because I don't think we've seen anything yet.
Oh God, I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. I hope it's all humor. Jeez. Has pharma been pushing back on your paper at all? Have they had a rebuttal?
No, not that I am aware of yet. I don't think that they have much to say. I mean, I dare say it would kind of, they're kind of thinking the same kind of way that they were thinking when they were on the hot seat at the ACIP meetings. I mean, I didn't see them give any solid or meaty responses to any of the direct questions, because I don't think that they have the answers. I mean, if you asked Pfizer directly, how come you didn't disclose the SV40 component in your plasmid to the EMA? Were you unaware that it was there? And if you weren't aware, how could you not have been aware? And if you were aware, why is it there? Didn't you know about the pending, let's put it mildly, complications associated with a potential for that being a contaminant in the final product? I mean, we have to ask these questions. We have to not throw away the precautionary principle when we're doing things like the things that we're doing, which is affecting potentially the genome.
There's a strange need for a bioethical retrospective on what has happened here.
You got that right.
I just don't really hear, I don't hear anybody except Aaron Kheriaty talking about bioethics, and people respond in varying ways to him, but he's been right straight across.
Yep.
I can just shake my head, and the fact that the papers like yours are getting published gives me solace. But the fact that the attacks go on and the withdrawals of the papers are threatened, it's truly disgusting. And my only hope is, whatever you have to suffer in the meantime, that the history will look at you and your cohorts as the Galileans of our time, and that everyone else should be ignominious, disgusting afterthoughts.
Well, not looking to be Galileo-esque, but I think that going back to the idea of laughing, I mean, I'm not saying I want to make fun of any of this, but in a way we kind of have to. We have to face reality.
Gosh.
If there is reality.
I'm having a little bit of experience just thinking about this, because I've been thinking a lot about historical, publications, and I've been thinking about Cervantes a lot, and about Don Quixote and its meaning in the present moment and things. But one of the things that Galileo did, I'm wondering, I've never heard this documented, but what really got him in trouble, the third and final time with the Spanish Inquisition, was a dialogue amongst three. It was a published dialogue that was supposed to address the issues of heliocentrism. And in there, he makes fun of one character, a sort of superior intellect, makes fun of the other character named Simplicio, simpleton. And the character that's making fun of Simplicio is always going, "Oh yes, you are so smart. Yes, that is such a wonderful idea. How did you become so enlightened?" The problem is the opinions that Simplicio was suggesting were the Pope's. And so I wonder if he was making fun of the Pope and really got his ass in a sling by going a little too far. So what I'm saying is, that's a long-winded way of me saying, be careful. Don't go too far with humor.
Well, yeah. I think that we shouldn't be afraid. I think that's my message. No one should be afraid to, first of all, to tell the truth. Telling the truth with a joke or with humor, the way that JP does, is brilliant because it's relatable. It makes people feel good. And, it's actually, to me, it's one of those things that the evil among us really hate. And I kind of, I find that ironic and amusing at the same time. And sometimes I think that, there are actually very few real evil people among us, and a lot of people have just lost their way. So it's possible.
Well, social ill is always done in the name of good. And how people are brush enough to do all that, that's the sinister part, that they get themselves brainwashed. So, well, anyway, listen, Jessica, I've got to kind of wrap things up. It's always a privilege to talk to you. It's always enlightening, and I appreciate your courage and your intellect and your willingness and your scientific, not just rigor, but integrity. Yeah. Well, you deserve it. And what shall we look for next, and where shall we look for it from you?
Well, just pay attention to my jessicar.substack.com blog. I'm going to be, I just submitted another paper,
We're wrapping up just in time.
For publication. That's about it. I mean, I'm on Twitter too, if you want to see me rant a little bit more than I do on my blog. But just an interesting tidbit before we go. Did you know that dexter is the opposite of sinister? And these are the Latin words for left and right. Hello?
Uh-oh. It looks like Drew's losing his internet connection. There he is.
Oh, I thought it was me.
I know.
There we are. I'm back. I don't know what happened or why, but Dexter, tell me.
Yeah, dexter and sinister are the opposites. One means left, one means right in Latin. So I remember my mom was always telling me this when I was young, because I'm left-handed, and she was a linguist, and so she was really interested in etymology. So she'd always remind me that this means I'm sinister, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. It means I write with my left hand.
So the real question though is, are you a true lefty or a just sort of adaptive lefty? So do you write?
No.
Do you write
I'm
this with your left hand? You're a straight. You're a real true lefty. Right dominant
like
left. Yeah, right dominant left-handed, real deal stuff.
Yeah.
Well, explain something. Sinister. There you go. So in any event,
I'm not
good to
sinister.
see you. Appreciate what you're doing. And with the yes, left-handed, right brain dominant, left-handed. But with the internet screwing up right now, I'm gonna wrap it up. So thank you, Jessica. We'll talk again very soon. Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Caleb, coming up, and Caleb, I'll give you a chance to ask any questions. We went over a lot of stuff here, including publications by Galileo for the Pope. The little royalty from the state of Florida is coming in here tomorrow. We're going to talk to the First Lady. We're going to talk to Joseph Ladapo, the Surgeon General. Our friend Tom Wren's come back around too. Leyland Vittert on the 6th. He, of course, is over at Newsmax. I think, yep, Newsmax. And we got some open gates coming up there. Salty Crackers back on the calendar. I for some reason I was thinking about him during JP Spears, because Salty does the same thing. Making fun of these people is very, very, very effective. Caleb, anything on your any question marks left over?
Yeah, that's why I had put that up on your screen earlier, is because I'm actually have been shocked about this for a while, but we've made 500 episodes of this show, and it means that there are thousands of other people who have said all this stuff. And our email address is public, and we've not received one email from anybody at any of these big pharma companies just saying, hey, this part is wrong, or hey, we'd like to offer this. They aren't even trying to address any of this, which seems very odd. Like, wouldn't you think that if there's millions of people out there that are now doubting one of their products that makes them billions of dollars, wouldn't they want to try and put out some sort of educational TV ad campaign or get someone to go and explain it away? Unless, like what Jessica was saying, is they may not have the answers that we would want.
They may not have the data. They may not understand the questions. There may be too much noise out there for us to even find us. And then, not to bring Sasha's name up for the third time here, but she alerted us to the involvement of the military and the PrEP Act and the DOJ, and who knows what that overlay is doing to things.
Right.
That sort of scares me.
Because would think.
Now, don't get paranoid on me. Don't get paranoid.
Well, no,
don't do it,
think
Caleb.
About back when, what's her name? I'm forgetting the woman on the Masked Singer judge that was on our show, Jenny McCarthy. Jenny McCarthy, back, 10, 15 years ago when Jenny McCarthy first started being an activist, there was an enormous backlash from pharma against what she was saying. I don't see them even trying to address any of the concerns that we've said. They haven't even attempted to, it looks like. At least not in a meaningful way.
I would argue a lot of the stuff that came down on Jenny, but it's funny to me you describe her now as the guest, as a judge on the Masked Singer. You don't know her MTV history or anything?
No,
you don't know anything about that, or Playboy, or none of that?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm old. We used to follow a show called Singled Out that she and Chris Hardwick hosted on MTV in 1996. So that's how Jenny hit the scene. And then I think she did Playboy after that, or maybe before that. But my sense at the time when people were coming down at her is that was more academic medicine. And the question then becomes, well, were they adulterated by pharma money because they were funding their research? And I never had the sense, this is kind of an interesting topic, Caleb. I never had the sense that anybody from pharma ever told, I think this is true, ever told physicians anything. They never told us what to do. They never told us, they held that line. And yet, I'm sure they had ways of sort of persuading and going, hey, did you hear that? Do you have anything to say about this? And they probably were nudging us. Here the field, there's actually a field of influence called nudge. They probably were nudging us in ways that we weren't aware. And much like the opioid crisis was perpetrated by physicians on behalf of the opioid manufacturers, who never were there saying anything. They were never saying anything. It was my profession saying all of it and going for the regulators and going for the state medical societies. Now, maybe the drug companies were the one that went, hey, Dr. Smith, you love our products. Sure. I know a guy at the California Board of Medical Quality Assurance that really wants to help you, sort of move the needle on this. Maybe we, that kind of nudging we wouldn't have been even aware of because we were busy doing our work.
Nowadays,
so
this
I'm
seems
guessing
next
that's
level.
how it happened.
Like it feels like this has reached a next level where if I was an executive at Pfizer, I would be looking at this and thinking, wait, this is really broken out of the box of anti-vaxxers that we were able to put people in. Now this is a mainstream topic being discussed. They're not really, I've seen nothing that they've even pushed back with. I've seen influencers push back with stuff, but I haven't seen them put out anything that says, no, this isn't true. No, this is, no. Maybe they're waiting and when they're called into courtrooms to give it, or maybe it adds liability if they try to explain any of this. But I would think if so many millions of people have a doubt and are building up more and more doubts in their industry as a whole, that just as it would make good marketing sense to push up ads or do something to respond to it. But they aren't even trying.
I'm just reviewing the New England Journal of Medicine just out from this publication right now to see if there's anything on any of these topics, and no, nothing like that. Well, another good show, and it's been another good week that is not yet over. We're going to be in early tomorrow because our Florida officials had to come early. It's going to be at noon Pacific time with Dr. Latipo and Casey DeSantis. So, and that's the rest of the week and the rest of the month coming up here. We will be starting again from New York after Monday, I think. Yep. And we appreciate you being here. Let me quickly look at the restream, see what you guys are thinking, if there's anything of your mind. Yep. Pfizer was the, where'd it go? Was the sponsor of Event 201. Makes sense. Excuse me. Somebody has to do it, Dr. Drew. I'm not sure what the it is. Ingredients of future mind control. All right. Thank you. And then let me look at the rants. Yes, Del Bigtree has been constantly picking away at the vaccine problems for quite some time. And, you have the government in there now trying to do it, and you're seeing it takes time. Everyone's very impatient. That should be, the science should be done yesterday. It's hard to do it, but it won't get done at all if the people like Jessica aren't being published or if their stuff is being retracted. So that is the great threat, not the speed at which it has to be done, but that it is done. And we will get to it. I've always felt like this. The medical profession, the scientific community will get to the truth. The question is how many years and how many, patterns of resistance we're going to have to break through to get somewhere with this. I don't know. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you tomorrow at noontime. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.